Okay. Hi, my name is Nathan, and today we're going to be working on the 7.67, I think it is. Let me bring it in here. So I'll go to Insert and Attach. I'm just bringing in the 7. Is it 7.6 or 6.7? I might have labeled it wrong. I'm just bringing it in. Right here, you can see this is how big it'll be. I want it to be a little bit smaller, so I'm going to click. I'm going to drag it till it's roughly the size of my title block. And now we can kind of see what's going on here. I don't have the title on. This might be the wrong title. I think it's 7.67, not 7.76. But it doesn't matter. Okay. So with this drawing, there's a couple of things I want to point out before we really get started on it. Probably about 4 things, I'd say. So the first thing I want to point out is this in the top right. It says, note all unmarked radii, so that's radius, are 0.63, right? So what that means is that here on the outside, we have a bunch of like rounded edges. These are all circles. This is what this is referring to. So see these little plus signs we got here? Those are the center of circles. There are some over here that we don't see as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there should be 6 of these 0.63. Now this does not refer to this circle because this circle is way too small to be that size. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I believe we are missing some information on this drawing. I'm seeing 2 things in particular, I think. So the first thing is for this circle and this circle, I don't see any measurements for these 2. We know where they are. They both share a center, and that center is right here where this larger circle crosses this 30-degree line, and that's the center. We do know that. But I don't see any information on how big to make this circle nor the outside circle here either. So that means that I'm not going to put these on the drawing. We'll have to talk to Mr. Tweed when you get back to class about what these should be. Now, technically, what I could do is I could draw this entire thing. I could make this drawing a little see-through, make it more transparent, and I could match the size and overlay it, and then I could try to match this the size of these. It'd be a pretty close estimation, but it would not be an exact value. So that's something I could do in a pinch if I really had to. But that would not be super precise. So that's one thing. That's another thing. The third thing, I might have said 4 things. Okay, yeah, the third thing is this right here, right? I also don't see any information about how far out this is protruding. We do have the radius of this larger outer circle that goes like this. But this goes out further, I believe, than this larger outer circle. So when we draw this, what I will likely do is I'll probably snap the edge of this small circle to it, to the larger circle. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but I don't really have a way to knowing for sure what would be correct. Because there's not really, I don't think, enough information. And I guess the final thing is you're going to see these 2 PLCS right here. All that means is that there's going to be this the number that are going to have this value, this typical value, right? So this one says 0.37 and there's 2, so that means this one and this one. And then this one says 0.80 and 2, so I believe that's going to be this one and this one. I believe that's everything. Oh, we have another one right here, 3, which is going to stand for 1, 2, 3. And maybe we can get started now. My throat's a little dry, so I'll be drinking as I'm doing this, so excuse me for that. Now, this drawing isn't a difficult drawing. It's just a drawing that can be a little tricky about what you need to do next. So it's more of an issue of planning, not execution, right? Because you're going to get points where you're like, I don't know how to find where the center of this is, for instance. And the real trick for this drawing is finding out what is touching what. All right, so let's begin. So the first thing I usually do when I'm drawing something in AutoCAD is I always draw the largest thing first. Now right now you're probably used to everything being able to fit inside your title block A, but in the future you don't know what the size of your title block needs to be. So always draw the largest thing first, and that'll help you find the scaling that you're going to need to do your drawing. So our largest thing right now is this outer circle of a radius of 3.65. That's going to be a very large circle. So let's draw the radius tool. 3.65. Very large. If you need to, let's say you drew it and it went out like this, that's okay. Just select it, M for the move tool, and all you want to do is you want to take this circle and you want to move it so that it's just inside, right? So that's no problem. Now, we have our largest thing, and it is a circle. Usually whenever you're doing circles, you want to see what other circles share the same center. What does the center reference? So we'll work off of that first. So looking over here, we have this large circle we drew that we're going to be cutting all these pieces out of. It looks like we have a center line, smaller circle here, and we have another circle here, and we do have some lines that are coming out of the center of our circle. So we'll handle all of those. So first thing I'm going to do, I've noticed on the text layers where I drew the circle, so I'm going to fix that right quick. I'm going to change this to the object layer, escape. It's going to go back to text, because that's what it does. And I'm going to change to the center layer, right there. So next, I'm going to draw this circle. This is why I swapped to the center layer, because it's not actually an object. There are parts of it that are, but we can change that. And let's see, this is a radius of 2.85. So that's what I'm going to do. Radius tool. Now, I don't see the center of the circle. I have to actually mouse over the edge of the circle, and you'll see this little plus sign shows up in the center right there. See that? That's how I can snap to the center of the circle. Now the green symbols, they have different symbols for different things, right? So right here where it's the diamond, that's a quadrant snap. And then this circle is a center snap. So you can kind of, if you mouse over and you just let go of your mouse and let it sit, it'll tell you what the snapping is. So we're going to snap to the center, and this is a 2.85. Enter. I'm going to change back to the object layer, and next we see this symbol here, right? I mean, we're no longer using radius, right? So 4.18. So we have to change to our diameter tool. Mouse over the edge of a circle so the center shows. Snap to the center. And then this one is 4.18 diameter, not radius. All right, so now we have 1, 2, and 3. I believe that is all of the circles that share this same center. So next we're going to do these lines that also reference this center. So I'm going to change to, I guess, I will use the center layer, because these are, while these don't necessarily mark the center line of this circle, I mean, this one and this one does. These other ones mark the center of other circles. So this is just what we'll use. So let's see what we have here. We have 33 degrees off 0 downwards, 30 degrees off 0 upwards, and 45 degrees off of the 90-degree line. So let's draw the 30-degree one first, right? Well, obviously what we'll actually have to do is we'll have to draw the straight lines, right? So the 0-degree line here, 90-degree, and the 180. So that's what we'll do first. We'll do the line tool, mouse over the circle so the center shows, and click. And I'm just going to bring this up. And it looks like I'm kind of maxed out here as far as space, so I'll just snap to that quadrant. That's okay. Press escape. Another line tool. Now for this one, I want a single line that goes all the way across, right? So to do that, I don't want to overlap. So I don't want to go one way and then go straight back, because then I have two overlapping lines. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to go over, click, and come up, and click. Press escape. So I have this little box shape. I'll take this line, I'll delete it, and I'll start a new line, and I'll snap to the end of this one. And then I can come straight back across like so. Press escape, and delete this line here. All right, much better. So next we can do our degree lines. So let's start with the 30-degree line first. Line tool. I'm going to press F8 to turn off my ortho mode. All right, so no longer snap. F8. I'm going to snap to the center. It's just square, but that stands for endpoint because it's the endpoint of this line, right? And then I don't have ortho on, so I get free movement. And you can see these dotted lines, right? One says 1.7010, and the other one says 43 degrees. That's referencing 0. So that dotted line on the right that's not moving, that's my reference, right? That's 0 degrees. So for my first one, I know I'm coming 30 degrees off of that 0, right? So I'm going to come out pretty far. And I'm just going to mouse to where I think is good, right? So 5 is okay, I guess. I'm going to tab over, and this is going to be 30 degrees. Enter. Escape. That's my 30-degree line. Now, typically if you've taken Math 111, you'll find that when you go this way, it's supposed to be negative, right? So this would be negative 33 degrees. But in CAD, whenever you do this, it's just going to change the reference. So you don't have to put a negative sign. So see, now we're referencing off this way. If you don't really have to worry too much about negative or positive angles when you're using AutoCAD. So this is 33 degrees, referencing this line. So I'm going to come out once again what's comfortable. And I'm going to tab over 3, 3, enter. Escape. Next we have the 45-degree line, but it's 45 degrees referencing the 90-degree line. So line tool, click center, and you see this dotted line that's 5 degrees. This is 45 degrees, right? But we know this is the wrong spot. We keep going, and you see that pizza slice. If I come out here, you can really see it. It gets larger and larger, right? Now straight up is 90. So I need to come 45 degrees more than 90. So I can add the 45 degrees to 90, right? It's pretty easy. You just add that 10, take 10 off, and you know you're at 100, right? So it's 100, and then the degree minus 10, which would be 35. So over, and I want to come out, not outside my title block, just to here. Tab over, 1, 3, 5, 135 degrees. Enter. Escape. Okay. One sip of water right quick. All right, so it looks like we have our 3 circles, and we have our center lines drawn. So we're probably ready to move on to what is next. As I said before, for this circle and this larger circle, I know the center of those two will be right here. But I don't have any information on the size of these circles. So due to that, I'm not going to be putting these on the drawing. We'll have to get the information on what the size of those circles need to be later on. But once you do have the information on what the radius or circumference of these should be, or diameter I mean, they will both go right here. So instead we'll start over here. So we have a intersection right here where we have this first circle, which is a radius of 0.37. Change to my radius tool, change from the center layer to the object layer, and then this is right here, this intersection. X, that green X is for intersection. If I stop, you can see it says intersection. I'll click on the intersection, bring it out a little bit, and I will put in the 0.37, just like so. So now I have that circle. Now remember the 2, so there is another one, and this one looks to be the same size, and it's the closest, so that's what we'll use. It's this one here. So once again, radius, I'm going to snap here, and I'm going to put in 0.37. Oh, enter. So now we have these other 2 surrounding circles, you know, and once again it says the 2, and these are going to be 0.8, and they're going to share a center with this one. So 0.8. Click here, snap, and we're going to do 0.8, enter, just like so. And once again, this one as well, 0.8, enter. Okay, so now we have these drawn, so we can kind of clean this up a little bit of trimming. So we're going to go to our trim tool, select it, right? And then you can, for your computer, you might have to right click in a blank area before you can come in and trim. So we know that our circles connect here right across. So we know this line is here. But we know that our circles will never go past this line. There's nothing here. So we know that these aren't here. So I'm going to trim this line and this line. And then we're also going to trim this line right here. And the same thing over here. I'm going to press escape to leave the trim tool. And I'm going to select this circle and this one and delete it. Now the reason I didn't trim the rest of these, right, is because they're still connected and I just need to delete the whole thing anyways. I would only be able to trim one side of them, and if I did, you'd have to basically do more work. So it's easier to just go ahead and select the entire object and delete it that way. Okay, so we have our cutout here, and if we look, we can see that this center line circle, this one that we drew, we know we also don't have anything past it, right? So we'll also trim those. Sorry for missing that. So we'll trim these as well. Okay. So that's a start. Now, I guess we could go ahead and do these outside radii, right? So this 0.63 refers to all these outside cuts, right? So now we start wondering, how do we get this little edge here before it wraps around? And that's using these circles. So we're going to use the tan radius, right? Because it's tan to this angle, it's tan to this circle, and the radius, we're told, is 0.63. Tan, and then radius 0.63. Enter. Once again, I'm going to use the tan radius circle. I'm going to click on the edge of this circle here. That symbol right there is tangent. That circle with the The line on the top looks kind of like an eye with an eyebrow. I'm going to click that. I'm going to come down here to my center line circle. I'm going to click this as well. This is what it's touching. These two things are what it's touching. Now I can do the radius, which was 0.63. So 0.63, enter. And then now we can do some more trimming. And we're going to trim these little hang-offs here. Look at that. And this one. We're also going to trim this outside portion and this outside portion. And let's see. Okay, so now this comes out, hits this circle, and continues. So we can trim here, and we can trim here. And then escape to leave the trim tool. So you should end up with like a flowing, it comes through, it rounds like an S, and it transfers over to this circle here. Looks kind of like a monkey or something with ears, doesn't it? Anyways, let's select these two circles and delete. Now we can't yet trim this off, because if I did try to trim this off, it's going to trim a lot, right? A whole lot. So we'll wait till we've drawn more of these other portions, and then we can trim that outer circle. Okay. What to draw next? Now, I believe what we'll draw next is this bottom right area here. Now, as far as I can tell, there is no exact information that I can see that tells us how far out on this line this needs to be. You know, a distance, I know it's on this line, and I know the size of it. I just don't know how far out it is or how far in that it is, right? So, based on just what it looks like, I'm probably just going to snap it to probably this circle here. I'm going to, not the center, but to the outside. So the outside of this large circle will be tangent to the outside of this small circle. If I do it out further, it'll look more bulbous than this. And if I do it in further, this will stick out here and overlap. So due to the lack of information, that's just what I'm going to do. Okay, so we have 3 circles here. 2 are the same, this small one and this small one. And then we have this larger one that shares a center with this one. So I can draw the shape and then move it along this line if I need to. So I suppose let us start with the small circle or the big circle. I guess small circles, so that's what we're going to use for the snapping. So the small circles have a radius of 0.23. Radius tool for our circle. And we're going to move this, so I'm just going to snap here on this intersection, but we are going to move this. And that is a 0.23. Enter. Now, as I said before, what I want to do is snap the outside of this circle to the outside of this one. So I'm going to select the circle, M for the move tool. My base point, I want to be where this circle intersects this line, just like so, and I'll click. Now I want to snap it where this circle, the large circle, intersects the red line, like that. And that's what it should look like. Okay, so next, I want to draw the larger circle, a radius of 0.46. So that's what I'll do, circle. I want to edge over this one to show that center and snap to that. And then I said that was 0.46. Just like so. Now we have the same circle, but we know that the distance up this line that it is a 0.91. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to snap to the center, and then I'm going to come over this way, right? Now this angle is 147 degrees. So I need to make sure that I have that 147. I don't want to be more and I don't want to be less. 147 degrees. And I'm going to type in this number, this 0.91, right? So 0.91 at 147 degrees. Escape. This is going to be the center. This end point of this line is going to be the center of this small circle here. So radius tool once again, snap to the end, 0.23, enter. Now I can select this line and I can delete it, like so. All right. Now the next thing I want to do is connect these two circles. A little bit of water. All right. Now to do this, we're going to use a interesting snapping mechanic. So down here on your snapping, you can control that with F3 to turn it on and off. But we're going to bring open the menu. That's that drop down arrow right there, which might be a little confusing because it actually goes up, not down. But I digress. So what we're going to use right here is called tangent. Now this is a very interesting snapping mechanic, and I'll show you how it works. So for right now, I want you to do two things. One, turn on tangent. So you want a check mark next to it. Click. The second thing I want you to do is turn off quadrant and center. The only reason we are turning these off is so that whenever you try to draw this line, it won't automatically try to snap to the quadrant or the center. So it'll basically make the drawing work more smoothly. You won't have to fight with the snapping. We'll turn these back on after we draw this, okay? So we're gonna turn this back on, and we're gonna turn tangent back off after we draw this specific. Okay, so now that we have tangent on, and we have quadrant and center off, I'm gonna select the line tool, and I wanna come in a little close. The closer you are, the less you have to fight with snapping, just so you know in the future. So now whenever I mouse near the circle, you'll see that I'll have the tangent symbol, that circle with the line on top. Now, if I had quadrant and center on, it might try snapping to these. But since I turned them off, I don't have to worry about it so much. So what I want to do, I know I want to draw my line like this, right? I want to snap to a little bit past, so like the far side. Right, so this is where I want my line. I want to go a little bit further, and I'm going to click. Right? So now that I've clicked, you'll notice that as I move, it's going to stay touching this circle. It's going to kind of slide around it. You see that? Almost like I have a piece of string like over a cylinder or something. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to come in, and we're also going to click on here, and we're going to click us a little bit past. Just like that. See that? Escape. And that's our line that we want. Do it again. Line tool. This time we'll start from this side. So instead of being here, this is where we want the line. We want to go a little bit further, right? A little bit past. Click, right? And bring it over. And then this is where we want it, so we go a little bit past. Right? And whenever we click, you'll notice it'll snap over. See that? How it snapped over? Escape, and there it is. So let's go back to our snapping. We're going to turn tangent back off. We're going to turn center back on and quadrant back on. Okay. So now we can trim this up a little bit. Use the trim tool, and we're just going to trim inside circle here, here, and here. We can also trim this here. So that's what you should have. So next we want to finish with a cutout from this large circle, right? Because this large circle comes out like this, right? And obviously this smaller circle is the wall here, right? And we know this is the same because we drew this dotted line, the center line, with 285, right? 2.85, so that's here, right? 2.85 for the center line, 2.85 for this area, 2.85 for this area, so we know it's the same. So once again, we have to use the tan radius, and we're going to use a radii of 0.63. And we're simply going to touch this circle and this edge here, right? Okay, so let's do the circle tool, drop down, tan radius, touching here, and a radius of 0.63. Like so. Trim tool, I'm going to trim here, and we want to trim here. Now we have that curving line. So let's finish up this trim, and since we're not drawing this circle here, we're just going to go ahead and maybe trim this entire thing. Well, we don't need to trim it, I guess. We can just delete it. But we'll probably get rid of that. Alright, so escape. Yes, we do need to trim. So we'll trim here, escape, and then now we can select this and delete those. Now we should have a circle and a larger circle here, but for this particular video, I'm leaving those off since I don't have any information on the size that they should be. Okay. So we do have our center line here, and we could change the center line so that it is we could change the center line so that it is an object line. If I select it and change it right now, it would change the entire thing. So what I could do is I could use a trim tool once more. I could trim here, and I could trim here, escape, select, and change this to the object layer. I could do that. Okay. All right, so what do we have next? We have two options. We can either start drawing this monstrosity, or we could try to find the center point right here. Right? If we find this, we only have 3 circles off of it, and that's it's a lot of reference points that we can use for. Okay, so probably we'll have to do a little bit of both. All right, so whenever we're trying to find the center of a circle here, and we don't have any coordinates, since we don't have coordinates, it has to be referenced by something. So either that's going to be an intersection of something, such as here. This is an intersection, so we know the center is here. Or we're going to be referencing it off of what it is touching, or tangent. So since we already know the radius, it's likely going to be a tan radius that we'll be using. If we had 3 different tangent things, if it was touching 3 things, then we wouldn't even need the radius. But likely these are going to be tan radius. So we have the radius of these circles, or the radii. So all we need to do is find 2 tangent objects. And then once we have 2 tangent objects, we can draw one of these circles. And if we can draw one of these circles, we have the center point, so we can draw all of the circles. So let's see if we can find it for any of these. So first we have the 1.96. That's out here. Looking at the 1.96, I can see that it is tangent to a circle here, but we have no way of finding this circle. So we continue along. It is tangent to this circle here. Perhaps we could find this circle using this. So that's 1. So let's see if we can find a third. We continue. I don't see any more markings about this circle anywhere else. So we don't have two pieces of information. We only have, or we do have two pieces of information. We have the radius and we have one tangent that we could probably get. And we have another tangent we can't get yet. So we know we cannot find that one. So let's move to 1.13. So we see that it is the radius, so we have one thing. So now we need to find tangent. What is the first thing it's tangent to? Well, the first thing it's tangent to is this large circle here. We definitely have that. That's this green circle. So that's one. The next thing, it seems to be tangent to this 1.38. And I do believe we can get this, well, not 1.38, this is a radius of 0.75. 1.38 from the center, right? So we do have the center of this circle. That's two pieces of information, which means that we can find this 1.13. If we look at the 1.63, we see that it is tangent to this small circle here, so we definitely could get that. And continuing, I don't see any other information for this 1.63. The other one might be perhaps this circle. It could also be touching, but I don't see how we would get this circle without already having this one. So we can't get this one, we can't get this one, but we can get the 1.13. So what do we need to get the 1.13? We need this circle here, which we already have, and we need this circle here, which we do not have. So let's start right here. So I'm going to use the line tool, and this center line is 1.38 from the center, right? This is something we've already done before. It's pretty straightforward. We snap to the center and we come over. I'm going to turn ortho on with an F8. So now it snaps to the lines. And I'm going to come over 1.38. Enter. Escape. This is the center of this circle and this outer one. So let's go to the radius tool right here. I'm going to snap to the center right there. And I'm going to do the small one first, which we can see is a 0.25 right there. 0.25, enter. I'm going to delete this line because now I have a center reference with this circle. And I'm going to go back to the radius tool. And this time I'm going to do the 0.75. So I mouse over so that I get this little plus sign center. Snap to that. And 0.75, enter. Just like so. Okay, now I have this and this, so now I can get these circles, right? Because this 1.13, which I believe is radius, yes, because we're using center here and this line here, will be touching this circle and this circle. So let's do that. This one right here, we're going to use the drop down, tan, radius. We're going to tan this one, tan to this one, and then the radius is going to be 1.13, enter. Just like so. We use a trim tool, and I just want this curve, actually. So I can trim this, I can trim this. Now I just have this curve. So it means I can actually trim this as well. And this one as well, right in here, this little tiny one. Escape, select this, and delete. So we can go ahead and we can draw these three circles. They all have the same center. So use the center radius, mouse over this and snap to the center. And then we have a 1.63, enter. Another circle, snap to the center, a 1.98, enter. It's looking very busy, huh? So the 1.98 we're only using here on the bottom, and the 1.63 we're only using here on the right. So let's trim off what we're not using. Now, if this is a little too much, you could draw one circle and then trim it, and then draw the other circle and trim it, right? So trim tool, And let's see, the 1.98 is the first one. It's the larger one, the outside one, that I'm only using on the bottom. Okay? So this larger outer one, I'm going to trim here, just like that. And then it comes all the way out. So I will trim here, I believe. Yeah, like that. Escape. Now I'm going to select the other side of it and delete, just like so. And use the trim tool again. The 1.63 is only here on the left, so it's somewhere in this area, right? So that means I will not use it past here. So I'm actually going to come in. If you look, this line will cut it off. You might not be able to see it because of the spacing. So you actually want to trim right here. If you zoom out, you won't be able to see it. But if you zoom in, you want to trim just past the circle in between that and the center line. You don't want to have this overhang right here. So we'll trim this. And then next, we can trim anywhere out here. If you see if we trim here, it'll trim off too much. So we'll have to trim right here. Right there. Escape. Select the rest of the circle and delete. Okay. So we have these three. I believe what we should do next is maybe finish the outside. So looking here, we have a 1.25 starting from that same center point for this outside line. So we'll draw that. And then you see how the spacing is the same all through here? When you see spacing that is the same, that means that they share a center. So you see the spacing is the same, or right here the spacing is the same, or the spacing is the same all throughout. They either share a center or the center is very close to being the same. Now, since we're doing this class, we're just going to assume that the centers aren't exactly the same. Okay, so next we'll draw the 1.25 circle here. We'll draw the 1.25 circle, and then we'll draw the 1.75. So let's start with the 1.25 radius tool. I'm using the center of this circle right here, right? Click, and I want 1.25. Enter. So with this circle I just drew, now if you're getting confused about the lines, you can always put these on a different temporary layer that just stands out. For instance, I'll take this one I just drew, and I'll put it on the hatch layer. It's purple. It looks very different now. You can do that so you don't confuse yourself with which lines are which, right? Just make sure that you put it back on the correct layer later on. Okay, so we have this large circle we just drew here. Now, we want to only use this portion of it. But we're not exactly sure how much, but we know we're not going to be using the outside portion of it. So if we look at the 1.63 that cuts like this, we know we won't be using past the 1.63, this outer line that's right, I believe here, this one. Now see, I'm not sure which line this is, so there's an easy way to find out. I simply go here, use the drop down on the dimension, select the radius dimension tool, and I can just click on this and bring it out. This is the 1.63 right here. That's what it's pointing to. So I'm going to trim this past the 1.63. So trim tool, and I'm going to trim it past the 1.63 like so. I also know it's not going to go past this inside because there's nothing in here, and that's this big circle here, right? So I'm going to trim it right here as well. Right, escape. I'm going to select this marking and delete it. I'm going to select this outside circle and delete it. And I'm going to throw this back on the object layer. Escape. Okay. Coming along slowly but surely. So next let's draw the outer 1.75 circle. radius tool once again, using this center right here. Bring it out a little bit. And 1.75, enter. All right, so okay, so it seems like I made a small mistake earlier when I assumed that this went onto this line, and it actually goes onto this line right here. But that's fine. It won't really make a difference. So what we'll do is we'll go and we'll select this and delete it. And this will still work out. If it wouldn't still work out, I could delete this circle, redraw it at that same size, and then just trim it out. Okay, so we drew the 1.75, and we're only using this outside bit. So let's trim anywhere it crosses over. So trim tool, once again, and it crosses over here, so trim, and it crosses over here. Well, we're actually going to be using this, so it crosses over here. So when it first crosses over this green line is where you want to trim, right there. Escape, select the rest of the circle over here, and delete. Okay. Quite an interesting looking shape we got here, but it's going to clean up in just a second. You'll see. All right, so now I believe we want to get rid of this trim tool. I'm going to trim here, and I believe I could just trim this entire thing off, or select and delete it, because I don't think we need that. Next, I'm going to do a 0.63 radii right here, and I'm going to do it right here. So tan radius, right? And I'm going to be tan here. And then be careful right here. You don't want to be tan to the red. You want to be tan to the green. Radius of 0.63. Enter. Trim tool. And then now I'm going to trim this outside, this inside, and this inside, just like that. Now I'm also going to come over here. I'm going to trim right here, I believe. The red, right there. And I'm going to escape, select the rest of this red, and delete it so it no longer gets in our way. You could have done that before doing this, and it would make your life maybe a little bit easier. Because you see this little issue I have right here? This is because I didn't have that line gone already. So that line crossed right here and messed with my trimming. So if we go back, so I'm using Control Z, or you can click up here to go back. I'm going to go back before the circle existed, right here. All right. I'm going to trim and trim right here in between these two. Escape, select, and delete. Now I go tan radius. I select here and easily select here 0.63, enter, and I'll have no problem trimming. Trim here, and trim here. And see, we no longer have that weird sticking out point. Okay. Next, tan radius circle once again. And we're going to select here and here. And we're going to do a 0.63 once again. Trim tool. We're going to trim this outside. Trim this inside here, and then zoom in really far to get this one. Whoop. What's going on here? There we go. Okay. All right. Now we also have a large circle here of a 1.25, and that's going right here. So tan radius, tan here, and this is going to be a 1.25. Trim tool, going to trim this side, and then also don't forget this. And now we have our outside of our entire object here. So let's go here and trim this off. We're not going to need that. And we're pretty close to done here. We just have a couple little things to do. Continuing with the theme of tan radius, once again. Next, we're going to draw this 0.25. So 0.25 circle sits in this little nook here. So I'm going to select here and select here. This is going to be a 0.25, enter. Trim tool, and just trim the outside like so. And let's see. Just got to be very careful about how we're trimming now. So we're going to trim this here, like so. This comes up and circles back. We don't have this yet. So we'll hold off on trimming all of this business for now. Let's see. So our next small circles, because now we're just doing these small circles, these 3 circles. We have kind of a triangle shape. We have one that is tangent to the 1.63. That is this outer wall here. That's the 1.63. And is tangent to the this right here. So I believe that means we could trim here. And we'll trim this. Make it a little more clear what's going on. I believe that's okay. Okay. So we're going to go to the tan radius once again. And this one's going to be touching this inside wall. And it's going to be touching this 1.63. And we know it's a 0.25. So this is the 1.63. So I know it's going to be touching that. And this is the outside wall. Right? So it's going to be touching the 1.63. And I can click anywhere on here, right? I can click over here if I wanted to, and it should still work. So I'll click on the 1.63, right? And I'll click on the outside wall here. And it's supposed to be a 0.25, enter. Use the trim tool and follow along very carefully for what we're trimming here, okay? So this outside wall, it's going to transfer over to this. So this is what we want to keep right here, right? This is what we want. So be very careful not to trim this. We want to trim the outside here, the outside here, this here, and this here, and we also will trim this large portion right here. Escape, select these, and delete. Looking a lot cleaner. Okay. Next, we have one more circle to draw, this one right here. And we need those 3 pieces of information. What is the 2 things that it's touching? And what is the radius? So we know the radius is 0.25, and we know it's touching this outside wall here. Now there is another circle on the inside here, but I don't believe we can get that circle unless we have this one. I'm not seeing any information on that. How do we get this circle? So we either need to get this circle here, which means we know the center, so we need a radius, or we know the tangents. Okay, that's what we can do. So we know we have 3 pieces of information. That's what I've been saying, right? We don't have the radius, but we do have the center, right? The 3 pieces of information. So Piece of information number 1, the center is here. Piece of information number 2, tangent. And then I believe we have a tangent circle here. So that's how we could find that one. So this one, we do have the radius. We do have the tangent of this one. What am I missing? Tangent here. Technically, I could mirror this over, but that seems like overkill. Am I missing something as far as where the circle is? It's not seeing the information. Okay. So, not seeing any information on there, what we're going to do is work off of the assumption of symmetry. So I could use the mirror tool, but I don't have the exact center of this, so I'd have to work to find what the center of this would be. So instead, I'm going to work with the mirror assumption that everything else is equivalent. So that would mean that the circle might also be equivalent. So from here to here would also be 1.63. Now this might not be the case. And it might be that since this might count as an unmarked radii at 0.63, which could be another thing. I could see either one of those. Okay. So I'm not liking either of these options, but it could just be this is just another thing that's not on this paper. I'm really struggling to see what other options I would have here. Well, okay. Let's trim off this little bit here that I forgot to get. Trim off this little inside here. Just trying to make this drawing a little more clear. Trim here and here, so I can see what I'm doing a little better. And we're only missing 2 circles from this drawing. We're missing a small circle here and then a circle that connects these two like this, that shares this center. And okay, I see a way we can figure this out. So you remember what I told you before about consistent sizing, right? So if we look here, we also have consistent sizing, right? This stays the same, and it stays the same, and it stays the same. Now we know the distance from here to here because we know that this outer circle is 0.75, right? And this circle is 0.25, and this circle is 0.25. So since these are both equivalent, that means that this outer circle is 0.75. So that's what we'll do. We'll use the center, and we'll use 0.75 because the spacing between this circle and this circle is the same as the spacing between this circle and this circle, at least visually. So that's what we'll do. We'll use the circle radius, and we want a 0.75 referencing this center right here. So this center, 0.75, and look, that works out just perfectly. It touches just like we want. Okay, next we'll use the tan radius. We're touching this one and this one, and 0.25. Trim tool, we'll trim this, and this, and this, and these. Escape, select this, and select this, and delete. And there we go. I believe that's our completed drawing, minus the measurements, of course. As I said before, we don't have this measurement. I don't see any way to get these circles, because this is a unique circle. None of the other circles are even close to the size of this one, right? These are much smaller, and then these are larger. And due to that, I don't have any information on how I would try to find the size of these circles. I know where they are. I know that these circles are centered here, so you'd have a circle here and a larger circle here. If I wanted to, I could scale this picture to overlay on top of this picture, and then just draw on top of this picture and try to match, right? Now, since I haven't scaled it, that this wouldn't do anything right now because they're not the same size exactly. But I could go through the process of scaling it, which is something I could totally do, because all I have to do is just get one of these measurements to match one of these measurements, which is totally doable. And then I would make this a little transparent, and then I would just go zoom in on the drawing, and then I would do something like, you know, excuse me. I would do something like, you know, I could just draw the circle on top, like so, and try to get as close as I can, and, you know, do that kind of thing. Which is something I could totally do, but it'd be best if you just waited till you get back to class and to where you were giving these specific measurements, so that way, instead of being close, it's exact. But in a professional situation, you could definitely do something like that to get around this. All right, email me with any questions, and thank you for watching.